You know, I remember watching the first Descendant trailer, and I could only think of two things during it. One, this lady looks a lot like Viper from Valorant. And two, what the heck is this game about? Seriously, after watching the entire 2-minute trailer, I couldn't tell you a single thing about this game, aside from the fact that it would be a shooter. Well, now that the game is out, I can say it's a looter shooter with similar gameplay to Warframe. In fact, it has a lot of similarities to Warframe, but don't worry, I'll get into that. The game starts you off with a mission to help this character named Bunny collect something called an Iron Heart, which is this game's MacGuffin. You're given 3 characters to choose from, one of them being named Lepic. That has nothing to do with the mission, I just wanted to point out that someone thought it was a good idea to name this guy Lepic. Who you choose here doesn't really matter that much, since like in Warframe, you can unlock the other characters later. After choosing your character, you're dropped into the tutorial mission where you're taught the usual shooter stuff. You and Bunny find the Iron Heart, meet the slight lady called the Guide, and get ambushed by some bad guys and the main bad guy whose name I cannot remember to save my life. After that, you're introduced to an enemy called a Gravewalker. And I have to be honest, this is one of the most disappointing fights in a game I've ever played. It's built up to be this insanely powerful enemy, but then you just dump a couple mags into it and it dies. I even stood still to see how much damage it would do, and an entire missile barrage from it didn't even take out a third of my shields. I get it's the tutorial and you don't want to throw too much at the player yet, but you could do better than this. And they do end up doing better. Later in the game you get access to Void Intercept missions, and I think these are a huge highlight of the game. Void Intercept missions are missions where you're tasked with taking down a Colossus, giant creatures that come from the void with the sole purpose of ruining humanity's day, and the Gravewalker is one of them. It's actually the first Colossus you get to fight in a Void Intercept mission, and I think this fight is much better than the one you fight in the tutorial. During this fight, I couldn't just tank missile barrages to the face, and I actually had to focus on things like dodging and breaking parts of the boss. Honestly, I think these bosses are much better than the other bosses you fight during the story, and don't worry, I'll get into that. But I want to mention something else the game does right, and that's the great quality of life features. One thing I love is that any mods you apply to a weapon are automatically applied to all other copies of that weapon. It's really convenient since you'll be swapping weapons a lot while you're leveling up. It's weird because I think they do a lot of the small things right, but there are some much more important things that I think just weren't handled well. One thing I hate about this game is the boss fights, aside from the Colossus. Any boss fight that isn't a Colossus just starts throwing a bunch of ads at you. And I get why they spawn ads, it's so you can stay stocked up on ammo, but I just feel like it's way too much. The Colossi fights handle this so much better. When fighting a Colossus, they'll spawn a handful of ads for you every once in a while, and that's it. It's just enough to keep you from running out of ammo, but not so much that they start to take your focus away from the boss. The non-Colossi fights, on the other hand, do the exact opposite and spawn so many ads that I feel like I spend more time fighting them than the actual boss. What's even worse is that some bosses can heal, so if you take your attention away from them for too long to deal with the ads, they could be back up to full health by the time you start focusing on them again. By far the worst example of this is when you fight Pseudo. Not only does he spam ads, and not only can he heal himself, but he can also throw down turrets just to add to the amount of ads in the fight. Not only that, but the orbs that float above him that you have to destroy to do damage to him can also become invulnerable. That means the boss's invulnerability phase has an invulnerability phase. Seriously, who thought this was a good idea? Also, the structure of the story is so boring. Basically, it boils down to talking to some people at an outpost, then you go do some chores, then you go do an actual mission, then you go back to the hub and talk to some people there. Rinse and repeat until you finish all the missions in an area, fight a Colossus, then do the same thing in the next area. It's so monotonous, especially because you do these same mission types over and over again. And then there's the reactors. Let's just talk about the reactors for a second. Reactors are items you can equip to your Descendant to enhance the power of their skills. Each reactor boosts a skill type and a skill element. So, for example, one reactor you can get can boost tech and fire skills, while another could boost dimension and frost skills. Once you start finding rare reactors, they can start rolling with a weapon equip bonus. Basically, this will boost the power of your skills even further as long as you have a certain type of weapon equipped, such as a shotgun or a sniper. This system is perfectly fine and I don't have any problems with it. What I do have a problem with is something called weapon mounting. So there's a tier above rare called ultimate, and reactors in the ultimate tier don't have a weapon equip bonus. Instead they have something called a weapon mounting bonus. At first I thought this was the same as the weapon equip bonus, but for specific weapons instead of just weapon types. Turns out I was only half right, because weapon mounting only applies when you're holding a specific weapon. However, if you want the weapon mounting bonus from a reactor, you have to have that weapon in your character's hands. It's not enough for you to just have the weapon equipped. And I just want to know why. Seriously, why does this work this way? It makes no sense. I had no problem equipping a certain weapon to get the power bonus, but why do I have to have that weapon pulled out to get the power bonus? The only thing this does is discourage me from using my other weapons. I mean, sure, you could argue that the same thing happens when you use the weapon equip bonus, but at least with that I could swap to my other weapons I have equipped and not lose out on damage. Now every time I'm about to use an ability, I have to make sure I swap to the right weapon just so I can do the most amount of damage. Anyway, now that I've ranted about reactors, let's talk about the game's pricing model. The first Descendant is a free-to-play game, and it has a battle pass and an in-game shop. Now that's perfectly fine, the game has to make its money somehow, but I just want to take a closer look at that in-game shop. One of the things you can buy in the in-game shop are ultimate characters. Ultimate characters are alternate versions of regular characters with higher stats, which basically means this is pay to win. I mean, sure, you can argue that you can earn ultimate characters in-game without paying a cent, but then that just makes it pay for an advantage. An ultimate character bundle costs you 3,000 caliber, which is the game's premium currency. And no, you can't just buy the ultimate characters, you have to buy them in a bundle. $5 gets you 250 caliber, and you can get bonus caliber if you buy bigger packs. And it just so happens that the $50 pack gets you 2,750 caliber, putting you just under the 3,000 caliber you need. This is done intentionally to make you spend more money either by buying multiple packs or by buying the next largest pack, which in this case would be the $70 pack. In fact, buying multiple packs would be more cost effective than buying the next largest pack. If you wanted to buy the exact 3,000 caliber needed to buy an ultimate character bundle, you could just pay $55 by buying the $50 pack and the $5 pack. However, paying for multiple packs is inconvenient, so there will be people who instead spend the extra money on the next largest pack. Again, this is done intentionally. In fact, it's not just characters that they do this with. Let's say that I wanted to buy this skin for Lepic. It costs 750 caliber, but the $10 pack puts me just under that, so I would have to either buy the $10 and the $5 pack to afford it, or I'd have to buy the $20 pack if I didn't want to buy multiple packs. Even then, let's just throw away the scummy pricing structure of the packs and pretend you can buy all of this stuff upfront with cash, no need to convert into in-game currency. $55 for a character and $15 just for a skin for one character is egregious. I get it, you're a free-to-play game and you have to make your money somehow. That's perfectly fine. But why are you charging me 90% of the price of a AAA game just for one character? Just one, not a pack of characters, just one. And then on top of that, if I want to change the way my pixels look, you charge me the price of an indie game. I'll stop talking about this in a second, but I just have to bring up one more thing to drive this point home. The Master Chief Collection, which includes all of the mainline Halo games, from Combat Evolved to 4, costs $40 on Steam, making it $15 less than an ultimate character in this game. Just to reiterate, a collection of 6 games costs less than one ultimate character in this game. Now, all of that aside, I want to go back to what I said in the beginning of this video. This game has a lot of similarities to Warframe. So many in fact that I actually started taking notes of all the similarities I noticed. There's things like how you have to craft your characters, and the entire modding system is basically the same as Warframe. They even have a mastery rank system that's exactly like Warframe, although they do it slightly better in this game because you don't have to do any mastery rank trials and it's not time gated, so you can actually level up your mastery rank multiple times in one day. So, with all of these similarities, that begs the question, why should I play this over another looter shooter like Warframe? Or even Destiny for that matter? Both of those are long-standing games with very dedicated player bases. The truth is, if you're already invested in one, I can't really see a reason to make the switch. While it might be worth checking out, it doesn't really do anything better than Destiny or Warframe. Except for one thing. I think the first Descendant's new player onboarding process is much better than Destiny or Warframe. I will add the caveat that I haven't played Warframe or kept up with it since the Duveri Paradox, so it is possible that they have made the new player experience much better since I've last played. But if you're someone who wants to get into looter shooters, then the first Descendant may be worth checking out. Anyway, that's really all I had to say about the first Descendant. While I did have a lot of negative things to say about the game, I don't think it's terrible, but I also don't think it's necessarily a great game. It's just an alright game. Even despite all of its flaws, I still enjoyed my time with it, so clearly they're doing something right. I just don't see myself coming back to it anytime soon. Who knows, maybe I'll check back in on it after a couple of updates. But anyway, that's all I had to say. Thanks for watching.